It's time for Friday the 13th again, as I just watched the 2009 remake. Well, remake is how they advertised it, even though there were a couple problems with that label, as I'll go into in a little bit. So, you know, like the first one, it's a slasher movie. Teenagers go to Camp Crystal Lake, have sex, do drugs, get murdered. Not any different there in the plot department. Stars absolutely nobody. There's nobody of any recognition in this, except for some actor who I think was on Supernatural, but I don't give a rat's ass about him. So forget about that. Interestingly, though, this movie was produced by somebody people might know, Michael Bay, who, if you know me, you know is my arch nemesis, pretty much. What's even funnier is Bay actually walked out of a showing of the film saying, and I'm quoting here, it had too much sex. This is the same guy who shoots women in any of his movies like he's making porn. But I guess if they're actually naked, it's too much for Mr. Bay. I don't know. I really don't care. So I talked about the plot. Whatever. Okay, so now I gotta talk about my problems with the plot. So it's billed as a remake, but here's a question, viewers. How did Jason die in the first Friday the 13th? Trick question. He didn't die because he wasn't even in it. So it's not exactly a remake. I mean, yes, Mrs. Voorhees is in it, but she gets her head chopped off before the main title sequence. And it's not even a remake of the second movie because Jason has his trademark hockey mask. So it's like some bastard child of the first, second, and third movies all rolled into one. Not a remake at all. So one thing I did like about this movie is it tries to go the Scream route and have like a dummy cast or a decoy cast first, who all get killed off at like the 20-minute mark, and then the real movie begins, which is nice, I guess. But I mean, as you see if you watch the rest of this movie is no Scream by any stretch of the imagination. You know why? Scream was entertaining. This was not. So another problem with the plot is, if you remember from the first Friday the 13th, made way back in 1980, Jason drowned when he was 12 in 1958. So the movie takes place in 1980. So he'd have to be, let's see, 22 years, 34 in that movie. And this one takes place in 2009. So 34 plus 29 is 63. Jason is 63 years old and running around and killing people. Are we sure he doesn't need a walker? Does he get a senior discount when he buys his hockey mask and machete? Is that how this works? It's just ridiculous. Why bother updating it for the present if it just creates this huge plot hole? Ugh. Characters are nothing to write home about. Like I said, movie thinks it's Scream, not Scream. All the characters are so stock, you can see where they've been punched out of the slasher movie character index. You've got the final girl, who's, you know, the goody-goody two-shoes, the harlot, who, you know, gets killed, the stoner, the token black guy, who also the Asian guy, who serves as the nerd, and there's one character that is not in most slasher movies, and that's a guy who's looking for his sister, who's one of the characters killed in the beginning. But you'd think this guy would be somewhat prepared when he fights a geriatric, apparently, psycho like Jason. No. Even though the guy is shown in at least 2 shots having a knife in the scabbard, when Jason finally attacks, he doesn't think to pull the dang thing. What's the point of having it if you're not going to use it? The movie be over just like that. Jason comes at him, dead. Nope. Speaking of that, how Jason does die in this movie is a doozy. He gets chained and pulled into a wood chipper, where the back of his head is turned into hamburger, and then they chain him to this machine and chuck him into the lake to drown him. Which is kind of weird, because considering he was supposed to have drowned, and that's why his mom went on that killing spree in the first place? Wouldn't they know by now drowning doesn't work? And then, I kid you not, after his brain is turned into hamburger, he jumps out for the one final scare. Just like in Scream. You know, the seemingly dead killer always comes back for one final scare. You know, you'd think slasher movies would have learned something since Scream. And that's that you shouldn't take a lot of it seriously. Not this movie takes it all seriously. Like, I mean, if you've never seen a slasher movie before, maybe you'll be entertained by this. But I sincerely doubt it. None of the acting is particularly bad enough to even be joke worthy, or the special effects, or really much of anything. It's just boring. But back to that business with the wood chipper. Here's the thing: Jason did become an undead zombie, and believe me, I've seen all the Friday the 13th movies multiple times, so I know what I'm talking about. Didn't become a zombie till the 6th movie. This is supposed to be like a remake of the first 3, so he's still supposed to be nominally a normal human being. I mean, yeah, he's crazy and deformed and can take more pain than an adult bull elephant, but come on, having your brain turned to mush would kill you. But he still jumps right back out like it's nothing. So the final verdict is, of course, don't watch this movie. You know, the only good thing about this movie is that it's the most archetypal Friday the 13th movie. If you only see one, you can see this one and understand everything about the series. Because, hey, it condenses the first 3 right there for you. You know, I wasn't expecting high art. God knows I wasn't. But I just saw Scream 4 a couple days ago. And that was better than this. Yeah, it had some of the same problems with it, with the characters being unlikable. But this one was just awful. The characters are terrible. It's like, die, don't let anybody live. Don't let anybody live. Because you hate them. They're all jerks. The one character's cheating on his girlfriend. They're all dumber than a sack of rocks. It's like, who am I supposed to root for? Jason? He's a mass murderer. You can't root for anybody. I'm just going to leave you with one more bit of trivia about this movie. According to IMDb, this movie officially puts Jason's kill count at 147. I'm just thinking, all those teenagers, some of them with bright futures ahead of them, killed by Jason. For what? Our entertainment. We're a sick bunch of people. I'm Hank, signing off.